You're listening to Farang Stories, Plas Deal, Episode 6, The Balance. The season turned. Rain came later now, and when it came, it was gentler. The nights were longer, the air cooler. The city moved at a slower pace, a small mercy between tourist waves. Pattaya always breathed in cycles, feast, fatigue, and waiting. Pla woke before dawn as usual. The fan whispered over the room, keeping the air still enough for thought. The last few weeks had passed without incident. Ethan had not returned. His face had vanished from the streets, replaced by other men with the same shoes and the same small arrogance. She stood by the window and watched the lane wake. The tailor lit a cigarette before unlocking his door. The noodle woman arranged her tables. A delivery truck reversed too far and scraped a wall. The city yawned in color. She boiled water, made coffee, and sat by the window with her notebook. The pages were almost full now, the handwriting steadier, the lists shorter. She had written less about fear, more about routine. Rent paid, medicine bought, daughter studying. Stability had become the luxury. She took a sip, looked at the single empty page that remained, and smiled. At the lounge, things were quiet. The bar had survived the storm. Even the regulars seemed softer, more respectful. Graham had kept his distance. The business deal with Ethan had died quietly, replaced by another investor whose interest was limited to spreadsheets. Fawn managed with her usual discipline, pretending the drama had never happened. Ning kept the floor steady and polite. New faces came and went, each one learning quickly that rules here mattered. Pla became something between worker and symbol. People whispered about her, sometimes kindly, sometimes not. To some, she was foolish, to others brave. She ignored both versions and simply worked. One afternoon, a week before Christmas, she was polishing glasses when Fawn spoke behind her. "You've changed the place," Fawn said. "Just doing my job." "No, you gave it backbone. Before, people thought we just smiled. Now they see we stand." Pla smiled faintly. "Standing doesn't pay the rent," Fawn grinned. "Maybe not, but it pays something better." "What? Sleep?" Pla laughed softly. "You always have the right line." "Only because I've had the wrong nights," Fawn said. They both laughed quietly, and for the first time in months the sound felt unforced. In January, a letter arrived from her mother. The handwriting was large and careful, the ink slightly smudged. "Dear Pla, your daughter is taller than me now. She studies hard. She says her English teacher asked where her mother works, and she said, in the city, helping people find their smile. I hope that is true. The house roof is fixed. The neighbors helped. We eat together most evenings. I think you can come home soon, even just to visit. Love, May." Pla read it 3 times. Each time, the words settled deeper. She folded it and placed it between the pages of her notebook. That evening, she walked to the pier after work. The sea was dark and restless, dotted with lights from boats that looked like drifting prayers. Couples sat on benches. Vendors sold grilled squid, and the wind carried a smell of salt and diesel. She leaned on the railing and thought of the last year, the decisions, the debts, the moments that had almost broken her. She thought of the envelope she had once counted on her bed, of the words she had spoken in front of strangers, of the quiet mornings that followed. She whispered, it was all worth something, though she wasn't sure what. A group of young Thai girls passed, laughing, carrying plastic cups of iced tea. One dropped a straw and turned back to pick it up. Pla smiled. Life, she realized, was full of those small courtesies that no one paid for. At the bar, time softened. The lounge was still the same walls, the color of patience, tables polished to a dull shine, mirrors forgiving to everyone, but something had shifted. It felt like a place owned by its women now. On slower nights, Fawn let the younger staff go home early. She and Pla stayed behind, sitting outside on the curb, eating cheap noodles and talking quietly. Fawn said, "I used to think strength meant shouting. Now I think it means staying." Pla nodded. Leaving takes courage. Staying takes stamina. Then you're the strongest of us. Maybe I'm just stubborn, Fon smiled. That's half of strength. They sat in silence for a while, listening to the night soundtrack. A motorbike, a distant dog, the endless hum of neon. February brought an unexpected visitor. One afternoon, as Pla was rearranging stock, a tall woman in a simple white blouse walked in. She looked around, hesitant but polite. "Hello," she said in careful English. "Are you Pla?" Pla nodded. "Yes," the woman smiled. "My name is Kate. My husband and I used to come here. You might remember us, Bill and Kate, from England." Pla's face lit up. "Of course. Gin and tonic," Kate laughed. "Yes, always gin and tonic." They sat at a table near the window. Kate looked around. "The place feels different, quieter." "Quieter is good," Pla said. Kate nodded. "I heard what happened. People talk. People always talk. They say you stood up to that man, that you spoke for everyone." Pla shook her head. "I spoke for myself. The rest heard the echo." Kate smiled gently. "Either way, I wanted to say thank you. Some of us needed to see that." They talked for an hour about families, about the city, about how time rearranges people without asking. When Kate left, she pressed a small envelope into Pla's hand. "For your daughter," she said. "Not from pity, from respect." Pla opened it later that night. Inside was a photograph of Kate and Bill standing outside a temple, smiling. On the back, a note. "For Ping, from the ones who stayed." She placed it inside her notebook beside her mother's letter. By March, the world began to move again. Tourists returned, construction restarted, new bars opened with bright signs and loud promises. The lounge remained steady, modest, reliable, the quiet rhythm in a street of noise. Pla had saved enough to send extra money home. Her mother texted pictures of Ping's new school uniform and the repaired roof. The messages became shorter but warmer. The distance between them was still long, but no longer heavy. One evening, while closing, Fon asked, "You ever think about leaving?" "Sometimes." They outed. "And?" Then I remember the noise of Bangkok buses, the smell of the rice fields, and I know I'd miss this lane too much. Fon smiled. "You belong here, maybe for now. Belonging can move." Fon nodded. "True. Just make sure it moves with you, not away from you." A week later, Graham appeared again. He came in quietly, without entourage. His shirt was plain, his eyes tired. He looked older than before, as if time had been keeping its own receipts. Pla saw him before Fon did. She braced herself. He walked up to the bar. "Evening," he said softly. "Evening. May I?" He gestured to a stool. "Of course." He sat and looked around. "Place is doing well." "Good enough," she said. He nodded. "Listen, about before." He paused, searching for words. "I should have handled things differently. That man, Ethan, he was trouble for all of us. I didn't see it soon enough." Pla studied his face. "You saw. You just didn't want to look." He accepted that. "Fair." There was silence for a moment, filled by the sound of the fan. "I wanted to say thank you," Graham said finally. "You made it clear what kind of place this is. I've decided to sell my share. Let Fon take over. She's earned it." Pla felt surprise ripple through her chest. "She'll be glad," he smiled faintly. "She deserves better bosses than me." When he left, Fon came over, having overheard enough to know. "He's really doing it?" "Yes," Fon exhaled, half laugh, half relief. "Then this place will finally have a woman's name on the papers." "About time," Pla said. Weeks later, a new sign appeared above the door. It read, "The Balance Lounge." Fon had chosen the name without asking anyone's opinion. The new paint smelled faintly of coconut oil and rain. Fresh beginnings always needed their own perfume. "Why balance?" Pla asked. "Because everything worth keeping needs it," Fon said. "Money, love, work, pride. Without balance, you spill." Pla nodded slowly. "Then we'll keep it steady." They did. Months passed. Seasons blurred. The lounge stayed open, honest, and slightly tired like its people. Pla began working fewer nights. She helped train new girls, taught them small things, how to refuse politely, how to stand tall, how to let silence work for them. She was patient, never sharp, always calm. One evening, a new girl asked her, "You ever get scared here?" "All the time," Plas said. "The trick is to work anyway. And if someone tries something, look them in the eyes. Fear speaks many languages, but respect only one." The girl nodded, memorizing every word. By the time April arrived, the city had turned to heat. The air shimmered, roads cracked, and even the fans seemed to sweat. Pla took a few days off. She wanted quiet. She traveled by bus to Nakhon Sawan, her first trip home in 2 years. The journey took 6 hours. The fields outside the window changed from concrete to green, from dust to water. When she stepped off the bus, her mother was waiting with Ping. The girl had grown tall, her hair long and bright. They hugged, the kind of hug that fixes years in seconds. Home smelled of lemongrass and memories. The roof was indeed repaired, the floor swept clean. She slept that night in her old room, the fan humming the same rhythm as the one she had left behind. The next morning, she helped her mother cook breakfast rice, dried fish, and mango. Ping sat at the table practicing English words. "Mother," she said, pointing to herself and smiling. Pla laughed. Close enough. Later, they visited the temple. Pla lit 3 sticks of incense, bowed, and whispered, "Thank you for patience." Her mother asked, "You come back to stay?" "Not yet," Pla said. "But soon." Her mother nodded. "The city changes people," Pla smiled. "So does home." They walked back through the fields. The sky was wide and blue. Birds skimmed low over the grass. Everything smelled of renewal. That night, she wrote in her notebook, "Home, home, waiting." Back in Pattaya, the lounge carried on. Fon managed, Ning smiled, and life resumed its endless rhythm of work and laughter. Pla returned to her shifts quietly, blending into the music again. The new sign above the door glowed steady. People noticed the difference not just in paint, but in tone. The Balance Lounge had become something rare, a place where the women behind the counter held the respect they'd built with their own hands. One evening, a tourist asked her, "Why the name?" She smiled. "Because every story here is a trade. Balance keeps it honest." He nodded, not quite understanding, and she left him to his drink. Late one night, after closing, she sat alone at the counter. The lights were low, the air still. She opened her notebook, the final empty page waiting. She wrote slowly, as if engraving it. "I took what I needed. I lost what I had to. I stood when it counted. Balance is not peace. It is motion without falling." She closed the book and placed it in her bag. Outside, the lane shimmered with thin rain. The neon lights of other bars blinked in uneven rhythms. Somewhere a motorbike revved, a woman laughed, and life continued, messy, imperfect, and alive. Pla locked the door behind her and started walking home. The parrot across the way would be asleep by now. The tailor's window was dark. The smell of rain and fried garlic mixed in the air. She reached her door, opened it, and stood for a moment on the threshold, listening to the fan turning inside. Then she smiled, stepped in, and said aloud to no one, "Still here." And the room, faithful as always, held the silence carefully, as if agreeing. You've been listening to Farang Stories. Pla also features in Hungry Nights in Pattaya, so be sure to listen to that. If you'd like more tales from Pattaya, Bangkok, and beyond, subscribe and share this episode.